Now we start with some of the physiological characteristics or functions of this bacteria. So we start with some of the properties. First property which we are going to study, first character which we are going to study, that is nothing but a respiration. Okay. So in respiration we'll come to know that they are divided on the base of mode of respiration, because you know that in respiration there is a two main criteria. One is aerobe and one is anaerobe. Aerobe are those bacteria which need oxygen for their survival, and anaerobe are those bacteria which do not need oxygen for their survival. So there is two categories, one is aerobe and one is anaerobe. Now in this both categories there is again a much categorization there, and in this each group you will find there is a two type of bacteria, that is a strict or obligate and a facultative type of bacteria. Now strict or obligate means they care, if you read a suffix as a strict or obligate means it is a compulsory mechanism, but when we use a suffix term that is or a prefix term that is a facultative means it is not compulsory. So this aerobic bacteria can be of two type, that is obligate aerobe, okay, and facultative anaerobe. But and this anaerobe bacteria can also be of two type, that is obligate anaerobe and facultative aerobe. So here you can see there are two type of bacteria. First, four type of bacteria. First is obligate or strict aerobe. Obligate or strict aerobe means they need oxygen compulsorily. In the absence of oxygen they will not survive. So you can see in definition here also, bacteria can live only in the presence of oxygen, and they possess the enzyme reaction for aerobic respiration only. In the absence of oxygen they cannot respire and thus they die. So obligate means compulsorily aerobic, in the absence of oxygen they will die, and such type of bacteria is nothing but Bacillus subtilis. Now another group is facultative anaerobe. Now facultative means it is not compulsory and it occurs sometimes. So facultative anaerobe means anaerobic condition will occur sometime. Normally they are aerobic. Okay, facultative anaerobe means sometimes anaerobic, they can survive in anaerobic condition, but usually they are aerobic. So they respire normally aerobically. However, they are capable of switching over to anaerobic mode of to get energy for their survival. If sufficient oxygen to sustain aerobic respiration is not available, then in aerobic mode also they can survive. Usually they do not survive in oxygen, in absence of oxygen. Usually they survive in presence of oxygen, but sometimes they can survive or tolerate the anaerobic conditions, such are Pseudomonas. Then another group is obligate anaerobe. They are compulsory obligate anaerobe, means they respire anaerobically completely in the presence of oxygen. They lack enzyme necessary for carrying out a respiration, that is aerobic respiration. So in presence of oxygen they will die. An example is Clostridium botulinum. And the last one is the facultative aerobe. Facultative aerobe, those which respire normally anaerobically, but they are capable of respiring aerobically. Sometimes they are capable of respiring aerobically. So facultative aerobe means normally anaerobic, sometimes aerobic. Okay, so this is the particular mode of respiration or different type of respiration in case of organism. Now we can use another term like anoxygenic and oxygenic. Anoxygenic and oxygenic also. So oxygen means they require oxygen, and oxygen means in absence of oxygen. So majority bacteria are anoxygenic. Okay, majority bacteria are of anoxygenic. Next we talk about nutrition in bacteria. Now nutrition in bacteria. So first we should understand what do you mean by this nutrition. Nutrition means intake of food, then digestion of it, and then assimilation of it. And assimilation, intake, digestion, assimilation of what? Assimilation of nutrients. Now in nutrients there can be a mineral compound, there can be organic nutrients also there. So this nutrition is of two types. First it autotrophic and another one is heterotropic. Autotrophic are those which synthesize their own food. Means some of the plants or some of the bacteria which can synthesize their own food, they are autotrophic. Here in bacteria also there are certain type of bacteria are there which are autotrophic, they synthesize their own food. So another type of bacteria are there, they are heterotrophic, they depend on other organism. When they are autotrophic, in autotrophic also we study two groups, that is a photoautotrophic and chemoautotrophic, and in heterotrophic we will study saprophytic, symbiotic and parasitic independently. So we have to discuss this in detail. So first we start with the phototropic bacteria. Dear students, please understand phototropic bacteria means are those bacteria which synthesize their food in presence of light. They need light for synthesis of food. Okay, and in presence of light they will synthesize food. So light is acting as an energy source, but for synthesis of food only light is not required. They need some hydrogen and electron carrier as well as. So this hydrogen and electron carrier can be organic and inorganic, and on the base of hydrogen and electron carrier, not based on the energy source, on the energy based on the energy source, they are phototropic and chemotropic. First we are phototropic studying where light is necessary. In chemotropic we will study that light is not necessary. But this phototropic where light is the energy source, in this they are divided into photolithotropic and photoorganotropic based on the hydrogen and electron donor. Photolithotropic means the hydrogen and electron donor is inorganic compound. Why? Litho means lithosphere, and lithosphere is rich in minerals, obvious. So and they are inorganic. So lithotropic are those in which hydrogen and electron donor is inorganic compound. And sulfur is obvious inorganic compound. So in these two type of bacteria are there, purple sulfur bacteria and green sulfur bacteria. Now this purple sulfur bacteria need inorganic compound as hydrogen and electron donor, and they are purple colored because pigment bacteriopurpurin is there. So the example are chromatium and thiospirillum. Now green sulfur bacteria, in this also hydrogen and electron donor is inorganic compound, but they are green in color due to the presence of pigment, that is bacterioviridin and chlorovium chlorophyll, and the example are chlorovium. So this, in all this hydrogen electron donor are inorganic compound and energy source is light. But when we took another group, that is this one, photoorganotropic, in this you will see that hydrogen and electron donor are organic compound. So in this they do not take sulfur as organic, so they will use a term non-sulfur. So in photoorganotropic, purple non-sulfur and, sorry this is a typing mistake, green non-sulfur bacteria are there. Purple non-sulfur are those in which bacteriopurpurin pigment is found, and purple non-sulfur are, green non-sulfur are those in which bacteriopyridine pigment is out, which gives a color to them. But when we talk about in discussion, they use a non-sulfur aliphatic organic compound. We remember they use organic compound as electron and hydrogen donor. But in case of this also they use organic compound as electron and hydrogen donor. So purple non-sulfur bacteria are Rhodospirillum and Rhodopseudomonas, and green non-sulfur are Chloronema and Chlorophaxus. Now in this, we remember this Rhodospirillum and Rhodopseudomonas, these two examples are important as they are a purple non-sulfur bacteria, which was because this is the direct question they usually ask in the NEET. Okay, so it is an important question. It is a important question that you should remember. Now next we move to the after photosynthesis or phototropic bacteria, we move to the next group, that is a chemotropic bacteria. In this chemotropic bacteria, they are dissimilar to the phototropic because in phototropic light was the energy source. In chemotropic bacteria, light is not energy source. As you can see in this taken statement, what they do not utilize light as energy source. So what they use as an energy source? For this energy source, they obtain energy by this for synthesis of food by oxidizing certain inorganic substances like ammonia, nitrate, nitrite, ferrous ion, etc. Be remember here they have written what inorganic. They use inorganic compound and oxidize them, and the energy which is released, that energy is used for the food synthesis. So this chemical energy which is released, that is obtained and trapped in the form of ATP molecule. Then this ATP energy is used in carbon assimilation, means what, a CO2 fixation with the help of hydrogen and from some source other than water. Not water is not used, because water, if water get used, oxygen will release. So such type of bacteria are hydrogen bacteria, nitrifying bacteria and sulfur bacteria. These all are a chemosynthetic or chemoautotropic bacteria which use oxidation of inorganic compound as an energy source. Now, due to which what happens, energy flow is occurred, but this hydrogen bacteria, nitrifying bacteria and sulfur bacteria will carry out a nutrient cycling. So this is the one of the important statement that they play a great role in a recycling of nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, iron and sulfur. And this is the one of the again important question which was earlier asked in it. So please remember which bacteria carry out recycling of nutrients, then they are nothing but chemosynthetic or chemoautotropic bacteria. Now, in this chemoautotropic bacteria, this nitrifying bacteria are too much important for us, because from this type of bacteria you will find questions regularly. So this nitrifying bacteria, they obtain energy by oxidation of inorganic compound, and here the inorganic compound is nothing but ammonia. When ammonia oxidizes into nitrate and nitrite, there is a release of energy, and that release energy is used in ATP synthesis. But this breakdown of ammonia to nitrate occur in two steps. As you can see here, that this is the first step and this is the second step. In first step you will see ammonia is oxidized to the what? Nitrite, that is NO2 minus, as you can see here. And when ammonia get converted into nitrite, this reaction first step is carried out by the nitrosomonas and nitrococcus. So we remember nitrococcus, nitrosomonas and nitrococcus carry out conversion of NH3 into the NO2 minus, and if they are converting this, they are carrying out what? Chemosynthesis, means they are a chemoautotropic bacteria, and when they are chemoautotropic, they comes under the group of autotropic bacteria. They are not a heterotropic bacteria. Okay, so they are autotropic bacteria. Now in second step, this NO3 minus will convert into NO3 minus, and in conversion to this NO3 minus, that is nitrate, the bacteria which are involved, that are the Nitrobacter and Nitrocystis, which use this energy for the chemosynthesis. Okay, so this bacteria are also chemosynthetic autotropic bacteria. Okay, so dear student, this nitrifying is important. Now please do not confuse with this term, nitrifying and nitrogen fixing. Nitrifying convert what? This NH4 or an ammonia into the NO3 minus, and this phenomena is known as what? Nitrification. So nitrification is carried out by nitrifying bacteria. But nitrogen fixing bacteria are different. Nitrogen fixing bacteria will convert N2 into NH3. They will trap N2 from the atmosphere and convert into NH3. That is known as nitrogen fixation. So these are not nitrogen fixing bacteria, these are nitrifying bacteria. So till this we have discussed autotropic bacteria. Next we focus on the heterotropic bacteria. Okay. So what are these heterotropic bacteria? Heterotropic bacteria are those bacteria which they do not synthesize their own food. They are dependent on another organism for their food. So they are incapable of synthesizing their own food from the simple raw material. So they are dependent on other, but they are most abundant. They are most abundant nature. Okay. So they are most common. Which bacteria are most common? If you find this type of question, then we remember that heterotrophic bacteria are most common. They are of three types: saprophytes, symbiote, and parasitic form. When we talk about saprophytic form, saprophytic bacteria, as we hear this term, we get a image of decomposers. And what the saprophytic or decomposer bacteria do? They are a free-living bacteria. They obtain nourishment from the organic remains, such as dead animals, animal excreta, fallen leaves, decaying vegetables, fruits, bread, and another products of animal and plant origin. So they depend on the another dead parts. Okay. Now, how they get nutrition from them? They release some of the enzymes. They secrete digestive enzymes. This secreted digestive enzymes from bacteria will convert complex insoluble substances into the simple soluble substances like water, hydrogen sulfide, ammonia, CO2, etc. So this conversion of complex into the simpler by release of enzyme is carried out saprophytic bacteria. So we can say this is a type of extracellular digestion. Here also they can use oxygen or they cannot use oxygen. If they use oxygen, then it is aerobic breakdown and that is known as decay. But if they do not use oxygen, that is anaerobic condition. And if they break carbohydrate, then it is a fermentation. And if they break a protein, it is known as putrefaction. Okay, it is known as putrefaction. Okay, so this is the saprophytic bacteria, which are heterotrophic bacteria. Next group is of symbiotic bacteria. Symbiotic. As you listen this term, you get an instinct like that it is talking about a benefit. And a benefit of not only one, benefit of two. Both interacting species are getting benefited. Okay. So this are usually gram-negative bacteria, and familiar example of symbiotic bacteria is Rhizobium leguminosum. And you know that Rhizobium show a symbiotic association with the roots of leguminous plant. We remember it is not leaf, it is a root. Sometimes they modify statement and put leaf of leguminous plant, then it become incorrect. They are the root of a, and in root also they fix nitrogen as ammonia inside the nodule only, not in free state. So they are symbiotic bacteria. It is not necessary that always symbiosis occur in always nitrogen fixation in symbiotic. Rhizobium do like that, but there are some bacteria which do nitrogen fixation in free living state also. But in free living also, if they are aerobic, then the examples are Azotobacter, Beezernickia, and Klebsiella. But if they are anaerobic and nitrogen fixing, then the example become Clostridium pasteurinum. It is an anaerobic free living nitrogen fixing bacteria. Third group is of parasitic bacteria. Parasitic bacteria are those bacteria which depend on others. Okay, so this bacteria draw nourishment and obtain a special organic compound required for growth from the living organism. They use a living organism. They use either plant or animal, and they are called as host. So here you can see there is a parasite host mechanism, where parasite is totally dependent on the host. Now this parasite can be pathogenic or non-pathogenic. So if they cause a disease, then they become pathogenic, and if they do not cause a disease, then they become a non-pathogenic. So this is the thing with respect to the three types of heterotrophic bacteria which are most abundant. Next topic which we start, that is a reproduction in organism, in a bacteria. You know that reproduction is nothing but a giving birth to young ones. It is a giving birth to young ones. Okay, and it is one of the important event for the propagation of life. Now when we talk about a reproduction of bacteria, this reproduction in bacteria is of two types, that is asexual and sexual. Now we remember, in case of bacteria there is a typical asexual reproduction, but sexual reproduction is not found. In this bacteria you will find sexual recombination. Which process you will find? Sexual recombination. Okay, so this recombination, sexual recombination is found. And this sexual recombination is also known as parasexuality. It is also known as parasexuality. Okay, so that is sexual reproduction, sexual recombination, not sexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction we will study binary fission and endospore formation. In sexual reproduction we will study conjugation, transformation and transduction. Okay, so we start with the first event, that is binary fission in bacteria. It is an asexual type of bacteria, asexual type of reproduction which occur in favorable condition. When all the conditions which are nearby, they are favorable, they are suitable for them, then only bacteria will divide by binary fission. And when they perform a binary fission in favorable condition, what will happen? First they will form a mesosome. You know that mesosome is nothing but an invagination of plasmamembrane. Okay, like this. And this invagination of plasmamembrane is known as mesosome. To this mesosome, this DNA will attach. After attachment to the mesosome, this DNA will replicate, and you can see here 2 copies are found. Now after that there is a wall formation and division occur, and this replicated DNA will distribute into the 2 daughter bacteria, and 2 daughter bacteria will be obtained. So in these there is no spindle formation. In these there is no true mitosis. Means here there is just a direct fission, direct division, and this direct division type of mechanism is known as amitosis. So we remember, this is the important question, that which type of binary fission is which type of amitosis type of division, and which occur in favorable condition. Now when there is an unfavorable condition which are harmful to the bacteria, that type bacteria will form endospore. And here you can see it is a structure of endospore where you can see a several coating over this. So what happens when there is a unfavorable condition outside? Bacteria will develop what? Several layers over him, and that several layers, several coating will found like this. You can see outermost is exosporium, then you will find a spore coat, inner to spore coat you will find a cortex, inner to cortex you will find a core wall, and inner to core wall you will find a plasmamembrane. This many layers are found over this. Inner to plasmamembrane you will find a cytoplasm, and the centrally placed nucleoid is there. So this is the structure of endospore, where several layers, several coating are formed in unfavorable condition to protect them. But when again they will achieve a favorable condition, there will be a germination of endospore. There will be a germination of endospore. This all wall will be removed, and the bacteria will come out, and this bacteria will live as a new bacteria. Now, the question they ask usually, that in which condition this endospore formed, then you know that it is formed in unfavorable condition. But to survive in this unfavorable condition, in spite of this coating, there is a need of one material that is known as calcium dipicolonic acid. Which material? Calcium dipicolonic acid. And this calcium dipicolonic acid is present in cortex region of this spore coat. Okay, and this help this bacteria to survive under the unfavorable condition. Now we move to the sexual recombination, not sexual reproduction, sexual recombination. And in sexual recombination we start with the first process, that is a conjugation. Now in conjugation we studied in previous before few slides we have discussed that for conjugation pilus is important, and for pilus F plasmid is important. because F plasmid has a F gene. So if you can see here, F factor or F plasmid is here. Okay, this is a bacterial genome and this is a bacteria, but this bacteria is named as F plus. Why? Because it has a F plasmid like this. These bacteria are known as F minus as they do not have a F plasmid. Now what will happen? This F plus bacteria will form pilus, and that pilus will attach with the what? F minus bacteria, and there is a formation of conjugation tube like this in between. Now you know that plasmid is autonomously replicating, so what will happen? This F factor will replicate and its copy will enter into the F minus bacteria. So like this you can see here. So later on what will happen? This F minus bacteria will also have a F plasmid, and when conjugation tube will break, there was a one parent F plus bacteria, but here F minus was converted into the F plus bacteria. So here sex was changed, means F plus bacteria changed into the F minus bacteria changed into F plus bacteria, means sex is changed. So it is known as sex duction. It is known as sex duction, and it is known as change of sex. Now, so we remember here what happened? F plus conjugated with F minus, and later on F minus converted into F plus. So 2 F plus bacteria was obtained. So this is a conjugation through the conjugation tube and transfer of plasmid. Next is a transformation experiment. Now what this transformation experiment says? This transformation experiment was carried out by Frederick Griffith. And Frederick Griffith taken a mice and a bacteria, and in bacteria also they have taken a Diplococcus bacteria they have used, or a Streptococcus bacteria. In Diplococcus also they have used two type of strain, that is S3 and R2. Now you can see here in experiment that in first experiment what he did, he taken living S strain bacteria. Now we remember S strain is a virulent strain and R strain is a avirulent strain. So if S strain is a virulent strain, this living S strain virulent strain was injected into the mice died and has a living S strain within that bacteria when the tissue was observed. But when we talk about the another thing, that is a living R strain non-virulent bacteria, in this type of bacteria they have injected R strain into the mice, and R strain is a non-virulent, so mice cannot die, so mice lives, and this mice lives, and there is no S strain because R was injected. Later on what they did, if S strain is causing a death, we can treat S strain by a heating, and they have heated this S strain. This S strain will be known as heat killed S strain. When this injected into mice, then also mice did not die, it lived. Means heating removes or destroy the virulence. So it was a surprising result for him. So now they thought that if heat killed S strain make bacteria alive, R strain make bacteria alive, if we mix them in this experiment, then what will occur? So they have mixed in this and injected, then mice died. So in this mice died, now they are more surprised that in living R strain also mice is live, in dead S strain also mice is live, and we inject both, then mice dies, means virus was recovered. So how this happened? So they concluded that there is some chemical substance which is transferred from one cell to another cell and transformed another cell into the virulent. Now which material? So might be during heat killing some material was remained alive, remained virulent, but it is not infecting due to the deficiency of machinery. Now when R strain was nearby, this material of S strain used the machinery of R strain and developed a virulence, so mice was died. So now they have showed that this chemical, so Griffith postulated that time that this material can be the DNA, but later on by three scientists, Avery, MacLeod and McCarty, it was proved that this transforming chemical is nothing but a DNA. Okay, so this is the transformation experiment which you will study again in 12th as well during the chapter that is molecular biology of inheritance. So next process of sexual recombination in bacteria is transduction. When you see a definition in transduction, what happens? There is a transfer of portion of DNA from one bacteria to another by bacteriophage. Suppose this is another one bacteria, this is another bacteria, and from one bacteria to another bacteria there is a bacteriophage. If DNA is transferred through from one A bacteria to B bacteria through the bacteriophage, then it is known as transduction. Now this is the process how transduction happens. Suppose bacteriophage inject a bacteria. When bacteriophage attach with the bacteria and inject DNA in the host bacterial cell. Now host bacterial cell have its own bacterial chromosome and it gain a DNA from the virus. So you can see here that is a phage DNA. Now what happens? Phage DNA will carry out a lytic cycle. And in lytic cycle, what will happen? This phage DNA will use the machinery of this bacteria and they will synthesize so many virulent phages. This virulent phages, by the breakdown of wall, they get released, and when they release, they inject another new recipient cell. Now, when they receive a particularly new recipient cell, in this they will inject DNA. Now this DNA will integrate with the bacterial DNA of B. Now when this integrated with the bacterial DNA bit, it called a lysogenic cycle, and this bacteria will be called as a transduced bacteria because these vironophages which was developed, they have already taken some of the DNA from the A bacteria. And they have taken that DNA from A bacteria and transferred it into the another bacteria B. So because of this B bacteria is a transduced bacteria, and this is process is known as a transduction.